What up, folks? Once again, it is indeed your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. Wanted to have some Trump talk in regards to this Jack Smith revelation, these documents that have come out. Now, many folks do believe, for obvious reasons, that Trump is a better candidate going forward from 2024 due to the economic concerns of the Biden-Harris administration. A hell of a lot of global conflicts are breaking out, and some folks just felt safer and better off financially under former President Trump than they do under Biden and Harris, meaning they're not that keen on giving Kamala Harris a chance to be commander-in-chief because she is simply an extension of the Biden administration. However, I want to step aside from the policies which favor Trump. I'm not going to lie about that. The voting public tend to favor Trump, certainly on the border and the economy. So I'm going to step aside from the policies, and I want to talk about this Jack Smith release of documents. Now, look, I understand if you lean right, if you support Trump, most of this shit comes across as a witch hunt or only some form of effort to prevent him from becoming president. But damn it, there's a lot of damning information in this, such as President Trump being told that what he just tweeted out has put Mike Pence, Vice President Mike Pence, in danger, and he's stating, so what? One thing I will say about all of this, where does J.D. Vance stand on this stuff? Or better yet, the family of J.D. Vance. I think regardless of how you feel about former President Trump, I think one thing is clear, whether you're on the left or the right. If you get on Trump's bad side, it's going to be really fucking bad. I mean, we see what happened to Mike Pence, where his safety's in danger, his career is over, et cetera, et cetera. Now, Mike Pence, he's a gray-haired senior citizen at this point. J.D. Vance is a very young man. To have his career destroyed at this point would certainly be more devastating to him than Mike Pence. So if J.D. Vance somehow ends up on the wrong side of Trump and gets his career destroyed, like Mike Pence or Jeb Bush or Liz Cheney or Mitt Romney or a host of other Republicans, it's happening to a very young man. He's younger than all of those other individuals I just named. But here's another quote that came out from the Jack Smith documents. According to Jack Smith in these documents, Trump told one of his aides, it doesn't matter if you won or lost the election. You still have to fight like hell. I think one thing is clear in regards to this. Trump was not going to accept anything other than somebody telling him, Mr. President, you have been reelected. He was not going to accept a loss to Joe Biden. I don't give a damn who told him. He had in his mind made up, I cannot lose, and I don't care what election official, governor, what campaign staffer, I don't care who tells me I lost. I'm just not going to accept it. And he decided to act on that. And there's a Steve Bannon, obviously one of Trump's right-hand men, released there's audio from Steve Bannon that came out on October 31st, so about 4 or 5 days before the 2020 election. And in the audio, Steve Bannon is addressing a crowd of supporters, and he stated, this is a quote, "We're just going to lie." Now, he stated that if Trump is losing around 10 p.m., we're just going to lie and say he stole it. Now, he's saying this 5 or 6 days before the election. He's pretty much telling you what the game plan is. We're just going to lie and say they stole it. We're going to bring up Hunter Biden. I mean, all of this comes out in this audio. So regardless of how you feel about the economy or how you feel about, Trump's policies, I'd be curious to know, how do you folks feel about this? Does it matter that Trump was clearly trying to stay in power regardless of what he may have been told? I don't think there is one staffer on the Trump administration that states he won the election or that states they told him he won. His own attorney general on down told him, we looked into the fraud claims they were unfounded, and sir, you lost. People who would have also gained a second term themselves, up to and including his vice president, Mike Pence, they all told him you lost, and he just refused to accept it. So I want to run it by you because at the end of the day, regardless of his policies, I do believe that can be troublesome if another candidate in the future does the same thing, where they just are so gung-ho on the belief that I'm going to win that I just refuse to accept the loss. Now, there's a whole bunch of other things we need to break down, such as the claims of fraud. I tell folks on the live streams, I've watched 2,000 Mules like a half a dozen times, and it doesn't prove a damn thing, which is why a lot of the folks on the right who have law degrees immediately said 2,000 Mules is no good in terms of proving that maybe Trump got cheated and he won the election, because it's just a whole biased investigation. But I want to just give you some examples. When you watch 2,000 Mules, they went to nothing but Democratic areas. They went to Wisconsin, they go to Milwaukee, they go to Michigan, they go to Detroit, they go to Arizona, they go to Phoenix, they go to Georgia, they go to Atlanta. They did zero investigative research in red areas of any of the swing states or the states of concern that they believe fraud took place. They went and strictly looked for evidence of impropriety only in Democratic areas, meaning that you could have been cheating your ass off in Savannah, Georgia, Escanaba, Michigan, some rural area of Arizona, and Dinesh D'Souza in 2,000 Mules would have never caught you because he didn't go there. He only went looking for Democratic fraud. So the whole 2,000 Mules, the way they did the investigation is skewed. That's the first thing. The second thing is all of the assumptions. You see folks allegedly stuffing ballot boxes. So the assumption is they must be cheating on behalf of Democrats. Is it possible that maybe somebody is stuffing a ballot box and cheating on behalf of Republicans? Well, we never considered that. If you can believe that Antifa or Black Lives Matter would go to a Trump gathering on January 6th and act a fool to deface the Republican Party, why wouldn't you believe a Republican could go to a Democratic area and commit an act of election fraud? This is the mindset of folks who are watching this 2,000 Mules and never thinking about any of this. Ruby Freeman, remember the whole Ruby Freeman mother and daughter team Rudolph Giuliani stated were passing around USB drives like vials of crack? Now, they sued him for defamation and won a lot of money against him. Whether they'll get paid or not, I don't know. But he stated they were passing around USB drives like vials of crack. Now, for folks who believe Trump got cheated, they believe Ruby Freeman was cheating on behalf of the Democrats. How do you know that? You haven't seen a damn thing that's on a USB drive. If Diamond and Silk can represent Trump, why can't why can't she be a Republican? So that's another issue. You see people passing around USB drives, and the assumption is they're cheating on behalf of the Democrats. Remember when they were requiring or demanding they be allowed to stand 6 feet over the shoulder of a polling worker so they could see what they're doing when they're counting the ballots, and they were making them stand 25 feet back? Well, a lot of Republicans said that was an example of cheating. Okay, because you cannot see what they're doing clearly, you just automatically assume they're cheating on behalf of Democrats. Is it possible they could be cheating on behalf of Republicans? No, Republicans are 100% honest. Only Democrats cheat. They're closing polling offices, shutting the windows down, boarding up the windows so we can't see what's going on inside. So we just assume they're cheating on behalf of Democrats. Is it possible they could be blocking the windows up so that they're cheating on behalf of Republicans? No, we never considered that. This is why Trump had 60 court cases and he lost them all, because you can't go into court with all these assumptions and no actual evidence. Proving that something looks suspicious doesn't equate to it actually happening against you. The same thing with the Dominion voting machines. They claim they were able to show that the machines could be hacked into and you could literally switch votes from, say, Trump to Biden. They suggest they showed that. I don't believe the evidence proved that, but let's say it did. You've shown that someone could actually hack into the machine and switch votes from Trump to Biden. But can you show somebody actually doing it? Just because the machine is vulnerable and somebody can hack into it and do this is not evidence that somebody did hack into it and do this. It also excludes the possibility that they could hack into it and switch votes from Biden to Trump. None of this is taken in consideration. It's just an assumption after assumption after assumption. None of that stuff works in court. What about Pennsylvania changing its method of operation for voting? The state of Texas sued Pennsylvania because Pennsylvania claimed they made changes to the way you could vote due to the pandemic. Texas stated that the changes were unconstitutional, went against their own state constitution, says Texas, so they sued Pennsylvania. Well, when they did that, the governor of Montana came forward this week with George Stephanopoulos, an ABC interview, and stated, we made the exact same changes in Montana that they did in Pennsylvania, but the Trump administration is not suing us because Trump won here. So that is another issue. You're only targeting areas that have committed things you don't like where you lost. But if you win, it doesn't matter. Here's another example. In the state of North Carolina, for some time, President Biden was leading in the polls. Now, Trump ultimately won the state of North Carolina in 2020. He got their electoral college votes. But for a time, Biden was leading in that state, and it was looking like he might actually eke out a victory in North Carolina. He did not do that. But while he was leading in the polls, Trump was all over television and at rallies stating that there was widespread fraud in North Carolina. People were cheating. Once he officially won North Carolina, he never mentioned the fraud again. However, you have to take into consideration, if you're on television and at rally saying people are cheating in this state, then how do we know you actually won? Should we not investigate that state? You claim there was fraud there. This is what I'm talking about, folks. At the end of the day, it doesn't come across as if Trump wanted a free and fair election. It just simply comes across as if he wanted to win. He's not really concerned with fraud if the fraud goes his way. He's investigating all of the swing states where he believes there was fraud and he lost, such as Michigan and Arizona and Wisconsin. But here's a state where he claims there was fraud and he won. You have not heard anything from Trump since the 2020 election about North Carolina. You didn't see it covered on 2000 Mules at all. But there is a ton of footage of Trump stating there was fraud taking place in that state. So all of this must be taken in consideration. And last but not least, when you go to vote in the national election, when you show up this time to vote for Trump and Vance or Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, that's not the only people you're voting for. You're going to be voting for senators in your area. You may be voting for the governor if it's time for him to run. You may be voting for Congress representatives. A lot of down ballot races. Hell, you might be voting for the town librarian for all you know. There's a lot of other people on that ballot. What I want to ask you folks is this. If there was so much fraud in the 2020 election, why is former President Trump the only one that's complaining that he got cheated? All of them other folks that won or lost that year are all remaining silent. That's like thousands of politicians all over the country. No one else is complaining that they got cheated that year. If immigrants, illegal immigrants, or dead folks, or fraudulent voters are casting ballots for Biden as opposed to Trump, everything else on that ballot would be fraudulent as well. You're not hearing anything from the Republican Party, who actually outperformed expectations in 2020. They actually did better in 2020 than they were expected to do. It was only Trump that people targeted. You don't hear any of them complaining that, we need to have a redo or recount. Yeah, I won, but there was fraud in this state. Maybe in all of those swing states where Trump claims there was fraud, Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, Pennsylvania, why isn't any Republican saying, well, the Republicans that won in these states, if there was widespread fraud, that needs to be reinvestigated too? There are so many questions that really cause what Trump claimed in 2020 to not make sense, that we have to kind of really finagle things to make it work, such as, well, they only specifically targeted Trump, as if you could get millions of voters to do this precision strike where only the fraud goes against this one guy. That's just not possible. That's just not possible. And the fact that no Republicans are complaining, I think, speaks volumes. Well, let me know, how do you folks feel about this? Because I am stating, while Trump's policies are what a lot of Americans favor, this should be concerning, that a politician could simply claim they didn't lose the election and take it to the level that this has went to. I mean, we just had J.D. Vance and Tim Walz in a vice presidential debate 4 years after that election, and J.D. Vance is still not willing to admit if Trump lost or not. We're 4 years out. We're literally 4 years out. There has not been any evidence over the last 4 years to definitively prove that Trump had the election stolen from him. And there's been plenty of time at this point. And as I just stated, no other Republican is complaining that fraudulent activity cost them the election or gave them an election they didn't deserve. It is literally only Trump that is saying the election didn't go his way. Everybody else seems to be happy with it. How does that work? Thousands of politicians running all across the country, and just one guy is saying the election was stolen from him. How does that work? Let me know in the comments, what the hell am I getting wrong? What am I overseeing? As always, feel free to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.